I would say ideally, when things are happening, generally I'm not thinking about anything. And then as soon as I start thinking about things, then oftentimes that's when it starts tanking. Sort of moving, you're present, but you're not overly trying to control things, and hopefully things are just happening.
So what does it take for that to happen? I mean, you must have practiced quite a bit.
Yeah, but I think it's you have to a lot of practice in that stuff, but also too you have to be in the right situation with people who are helping make that thing happen. So it's the people you're playing with, I would say. Yeah, it's tough. I've been trying to think about the listening thing. It's really hard. Like for instance, even tonight, there's only 2 other people I'm playing with, but that's like, you know, I don't even know the science behind that. Like can a human actually hear all those things happening at once and actually take in everything and hear everything, hear what you're doing, hear what they're doing? I don't really know. But generally for me with music, those really important core things for me, which are time and feel and sound, if those things aren't happening, then I find myself focused on those things. So, you know, let's say, and maybe bass would be the one that I'm going to listen to. If I have to listen to someone first and foremost, I might listen to the bass, because a lot of the things I'm doing are sort of hooking up with bass. So if the time or the feel isn't happening, that's going to preoccupy my focus, I would say. So, but you know, better people you play with, then those nuts and bolts type things can kind of go away, and then you can just kind of focus on different stuff, I would say. For me, I like conversational sort of music. So I like feeling that someone, like what I'm doing matters to someone, what someone else is doing, and vice versa. Not necessarily that I have to copy it, or that it has to be this back and forth thing or whatever, but just that sometimes you're playing and you feel like what you do has no consequence to what the other player does. And I never want to be like that as a musician. Yeah. So that's always when I'm playing with people. If I feel like what I do matters and what they do is mattering, it already matters to me, then it's cool.
In terms of my order of operations, or like, you know, there's like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing. It's like, what do I need fundamentally? I need to be able to connect with a drummer, you know, or we need to be able to connect with each other. If that is happening, then the next level in a way for me is, okay, how are things working with this chord player, and are we more or less on the same page harmonically, you know, or the note choices I'm making sort of supporting what they're doing, as well as the rhythms and so on. And then if that's working out, then it's like this, you know, if all of those things are working out, then there might be actually enough awareness left over to really kind of go, okay, what is the soloist doing? And how are they relating to us? When you're feeling like you're sort of more in the zone, there's some things optimally you're not thinking about that you don't want to have to think about, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you do have to think about them. And that could be like the F major scale, or, you know, what you should play, what note should resolve to the 4 chord in a blues. And those are things that I think the reality is, over time, through playing and studying, however one does that, and practicing, you become more and more familiar with these things, and hopefully to the point where you don't have to think about them, you're just kind of hearing what you're doing. And I wonder if that's the ultimate goal.
Basically, those things that are the most important, or the first things that I'm going to focus on that aren't there, those are the things I also, like, ideally when you're playing music, like for me, I don't want to be thinking about feel or time or sound, like those chord sort of things for me. Those are something. Well, you have to do those with people, but let's say, you know, time or sound. Those are things I've tried to work on in my practice, so that when I'm playing, I can then turn my attention to, you know, listening to what this person's doing, what that person's doing, moving my focus around. But it's interesting. I played a gig it's a number of years ago with this guy Mike Allen, who's a saxophone player from Vancouver, and he was saying to me, Ethan, I can tell you're too much listening to like the bass and the piano and interacting with them, and not the saxophone. And you have to think about like a triangle, or like a pyramid, and the point of that thing, let's say in a saxophone quartet with piano, bass, and drums, it's the saxophone. And sort of focusing which made me sort of think in a way too, because like if everyone, even though I know I do, I'm going to focus on the bass and hooking up with the bass. But if the bass and the drums are both really focused on the saxophone, then in a weird way we are listening to we're working with ourselves, with each other too.